to the East Blanquito Township Public Meeting. All participants are now informed that this meeting is being recorded. This meeting is also being offered virtually utilizing Zoom, which is a cloud-based platform for remote video and audio conferencing. The Zoom application is free to the public. The general public is therefore able to join the meeting by connection through the internet or by calling in by phone. The public is also able to observe the meeting on the township's YouTube channel. Please continue to check the township website calendar for any updates related to these public meetings. Agendas for these public meetings will also be available on the township's website. Please be reminded that this meeting is being video and audio recorded and will be posted to the township's YouTube channel for viewing. The meeting will now proceed with the chairman calling the meeting to order and identifying all other members present in the meeting room and those joining the meeting via Zoom. The chairman will then confirm those members joining by Zoom can be heard.
All right, we'll call the meeting to order. If you'll rise and join me in the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, joining me tonight, we've got Mr. Roger Rutt, Mr. Glenn Everly, and Mr. Tim Lapp. Vice Chair Flowers is not able to make it this evening. First order on our agenda is public comment on any non-agenda items. Is there any public comment online?
There is none.
Mike, do you have any public comment?
I don't.
Okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda, which is approval of the October 7th, 2024 meeting agenda, which you have in front of you, and approval of the July 15th, 2024 regular meeting minutes. Is there a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion from Mr. Everly and a second from Mr. Lapp. All those in favor, is there public comment? Not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Item 5A, we've got branding, gateway features, and wayfinding. Would you like to provide an update on that, Ralph?
Ethan, Tara, and I went out to the farm that we were looking at where potential gateway sign location would be, which is just east of the mini golf course there on the north side. It's actually accessed off of Eastbrook and Meadowview Lane. Met with the tenant, not the owner there, said we need to speak with the owner. We got the phone number of the owner. I've attempted to call that number several times, left messages, just haven't gotten a return call back. So I think we're going to have to go to the owner's location and hope that we might find the owner that we can talk with them. Other than that, I don't have anything else to report on branding, gateway features, or wayfinding.
Okay. Any questions for Ralph on that? Any of you know Mr. John E. Lapp?
Is it Lapp that owns the property?
Yeah, he doesn't live there.
He lives on Eastbrook Road.
Oh, he does.
Yeah, it's just a little north of this location.
I haven't met a Lapp I didn't like yet, so I mean, just,
No argument there, but
but, no, I don't know that John Lapp that lives there, but yeah. Like to
We'll
connect
keep
with
trying.
him, like to connect with him, that'd be cool, yeah.
So if we can't reach him by phone, we might just pop over during dinner sometimes.
That's, yeah. He's in the Fisher book with me, probably, so it's somewhere, yeah.
I've got our ancestors in the Fisher book
There
too,
you go. That's.
on the Garmin side. Barely make it in there. Okay, next item on our agenda is a report on the Business Improvement District. And we have Mr. Benjamin Cafferlin from Cafferlin Strategies on Zoom to give us an update of where we're at with the project. Go ahead, Ben.
Good evening. Can you hear me all right?
You can.
Perfect. Well, thanks again for the opportunity to serve you on creating the Business Improvement District. It's really hard to believe that it's been a quarter already since we last met. Let me do three things with you right now. One, I'll do a progress update. Number two, talk about next steps. Number three, present the timeline. So since the last time we met in July, the township approved the expenditure in August, and we started working about a month ago in early September on the project. We reviewed all the previous work. We revised the preliminary plan. We created a dynamic map and updated it. We have drafted and then approved the authorization resolution. We built a parcel database and then subsequently a mailing list. And we created the timeline. And then we also built a website, which we haven't published yet, but is ready to go at any time. All those documents and everything that we're creating will be available on lincolnhighwayeast.bid. The highway is HWY. So everything related to this project can be housed on there and accessible to the public and of course you all. So that'll include a dynamic Google map with the parcel information overlaid on it, along with all the resolutions, ordinances, et cetera, et cetera. Any questions on our progress so far?
What's that again? Lincoln Highway East dot what? What did you say
Bid.
again? Bid, okay, gotcha, thank you.
And Ben, was that, I know we went back and forth on email on the URL. Is that Lincoln Highway Lancaster.bid? I think is what we were.
We actually have them all. So you could pick whichever one you like to be the primary one, but we ended up buying multiple domains and just pointing it to the same server. Do you have a preference?
Well, the brand that was established was Lincoln Highway Lancaster, so I think we should
Yep.
stick with it. Just if I can share my thought.
Lincoln Highway East Lancaster?
Lincoln Highway
Or
Lancaster.
just Lincoln Highway Lancaster, okay.
When we did the branding, that was the one we settled on. We were back and forth between Lincoln Highway East and Lincoln Highway Lancaster, so I've misidentified it as Lincoln Highway East a few times myself. So.
Gotcha.
But the official one and the logo we had created are Lincoln Highway Lancaster.
Yep. That actually is, my apologies, that is the one that is currently the primary. If you tried typing it in right now, it'll just come up saying, you know, the site's under construction, but yep, that's what we have.
Okay.
So next steps. The attorney is reviewing the preliminary plan that we drafted, and then it's sent on to staff for approval. At that point, once approved, we will be able to mail the plan to all the residents. That'll include, the law actually is very specific about all the things that have to be included in that letter. Everything from the name of the authority to parcel information and such. So we've compiled most of that. We'll just wait the attorney's final review on it. We'll be ready to mail that to all of the property owners. Next, we will ask the staff to advertise a public hearing no later than 10 days before that hearing. I'll get to the timeline in a minute, but I have a recommendation on when that would be. Next, this isn't required, but I'd like to offer an informational video conference call. Next, we'll have to have the public hearing. But my idea with the video conference call would be that there may be some property owners that are not local that might want to be involved. There also may be people that we could hear their questions and concerns before the official public hearing and kind of deal with them before that. If there are no substantive comments at the public hearing that give the board pause or any significant revisions, then we can immediately turn around and mail the final plan out. And then there's a 45-day period for them to respond. After that, you can do an interview process to identify board members. And finally, the township will need to pass the ordinance and make the appointments to the board. Any questions on the next steps besides timeline, which I'll get to?
And does the plan need to be approved by either the ICDA or the supervisors before it's distributed?
No, the resolution says that you actually can. So it will not go into effect until it's passed by the township board at the passing of the ordinance.
And the hearing is in front of the ICDA or in front of the supervisors?
It would be before the supervisors. I recognize that the development authority is kind of the driver here, but the legal authority rests with the township. All right, let me briefly touch on timeline. Given that you have a lot of, well, given that we have a lot of things on the agenda for October 21st, Ethan and I spoke recently about pushing the public hearing off into November. I believe your next meeting is the 18th, well, after that. And you have to have a 30-day notice with the mailing. And so that would push us back, if we chose November 18th as the public hearing date, that would push us back to doing the mailing of the preliminary plan to around October 19th. I'm proposing then that we could do the video call that I suggested around October 30th. I was thinking October 30th at noon. The advertisement, once decided, I mean, it could go out tomorrow, I suppose, but the latest it could be would then be November 8th in the paper. And then that would kick off the 45-day window, which takes us up to January 2nd for people to respond. And then January 6th at the reorg meeting, you could actually do the appointments. That is a little bit tight. It's doable and legal, but there is one big caveat, which is that if there are significant revisions to the plan subsequent to the public hearing, then it would push the whole thing off, probably another 30 days. So then you would be into February, which is no big deal, of course, but that's just something to be aware of, that if you do want to make substantive changes, then we will have to essentially do the process again. So that's a tight timeline, but you have three options before you. Number one would be you can just make a conscious decision now to add a little more breathing room, such as vote on the ordinance in a later meeting in January or in February. Option two would be to advertise a public hearing separate from the board meeting night. You could move it from the 18th up to a few days before or something. And now option number three, which is perfectly fine, I think, would be to stick with the proposal that I just laid out. So does the board have a preference on that?
It's more of a, does staff have preference on one of those? Mainly looking at the November 18th meeting. Do we have the time to do a public hearing prior to that meeting? Because the other big one will be the next meetings we have are December 2nd, 17th, and then probably at the November meeting, we'll probably be digging into the budget stuff as well.
Right, definitely at the November 18 meeting, the supervisors will be asked to authorize advertising the budget. So there'll be a lot of budget work going into that and leading up to that. We've got a number of land development plans that will probably be on the agenda in that time frame as well. But if it's held, most of the time it's really a function of the supervisor schedules, and whether or not we can get all the supervisors.
Ethan, can I ask a question? Yes. Ben, and you're doing this process, those public hearings, do they usually involve a lot of people? don't you get much response? What I'm getting at, will it take a whole evening, or is it something can be done before a board meeting?
For my review of last time, it was not highly controversial in the meeting. Didn't seem to be a long meeting. It really depends on how good a job we do of communicating things in the rollout. So I think that that's going to largely be answered by, can we answer all the questions in that letter and on the website and do some good one-on-one meetings before that meeting so that it doesn't end up being, an hour long.
Could do it before a meeting.
Yeah, so that would be my hope in this one, and is basically by having the information on a website, having the information in the mail, having the informational meeting that's virtual and also recorded, and we can put up on the website as well. Most people should have had their questions answered ahead of time. And the hearing shouldn't take too long, or we could run it so that it moves a little quicker. So my recommendation would be, if we can, do it on the 18th. And then if it ends up being a longer meeting and we have to review and address, we can always pause at that point. I mean, if the room's full and there's a ton of questions that are unanswered, we'll probably want to pause at that point. But if the room's not full
Yeah.
and there's not a lot of questions, then we're probably good to keep going. So
And usually it's easier for board members to come a little early the night that they're already planning to be here rather than trying to find another date. So,
especially in November, December.
right, yeah.
So that might be one. If Steph, you want to just confirm with the supervisors in their meeting in 15 minutes or afterwards, that works with calendars, and then we can get back to Mr. Kapperlin and he can start the ball rolling on communicating that
Mailing.
date and doing the mailing.
Very good.
Right? Any other questions or comments on the business improvement district? Well, if none, thank you, Mr. Kapperlin, and
My pleasure.
no new business or action items. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion adjourned by Mr. Runt, second by Mr. Lapp. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. We are adjourned. Next meeting is Monday, January 6th. 2025.